You think your sleep problem starts at 3 a.m., but it may actually begin at 7 p.m. It's a quiet evening. Dinner is done. The day is winding down. But what you choose to do or not do in that small, overlooked hour could shape your entire night. If you've ever found yourself wide awake in the early morning darkness, staring at the ceiling, wondering why rest escapes you, the answer may lie not in your sleep, but in your evening. After 70, your body speaks a different language. It whispers instead of shouts. It needs rhythm, not noise. And it starts preparing for sleep far earlier than most of us realize. The truth is, what you do at 7 p.m. speaks to your body all night long. That's why tonight isn't just another evening. It's a chance to choose rest, calm, and emotional care before the world goes dark. In this story, we'll explore how small evening choices can quiet your nights, steady your emotions, and help you sleep. Not just longer, but deeper. If you've ever wondered why sleep feels harder now, or what you could do differently starting tonight, comment number 1 below. Let's begin together, with softness, intention, and the power of 7 p.m. While the world might not pay much attention to what happens after dinner, your body certainly does. By the time 7 p.m. arrives, your body is already shifting gears, even if you don't feel it right away. Especially after 70, the natural rhythm of your internal clock begins moving earlier. This means that by early evening, your brain and nervous system are already preparing for rest. The pace slows, hormone production shifts, and your body begins sending subtle signals. Soften, settle, begin to let go. But if you don't recognize that transition, it's easy to unknowingly work against it. Maybe you're still finishing chores. Maybe you're watching something intense on TV or catching up on news. You might not feel overstimulated, but your body, now more sensitive with age, might not be able to fully unwind once it's time to sleep. This was the case for Darlene, a 74-year-old in upstate New York, who found herself consistently waking between 3 and 4 a.m. Her days were calm, and she had no major health issues. But her evenings were filled with noise, bright lights, background television, and constant multitasking. When she began slowing things down after dinner, dimming the lights, turning off the news, and spending 15 quiet minutes reading in her favorite chair, her sleep slowly began to deepen. Not immediately, but steadily. What changed wasn't the amount of sleep she got. It was how her body received it. After 70, your body no longer bounces back from late-night stimulation the way it once did. It needs a lead-in to rest, and that lead-in often starts far earlier than we've been taught. Ignoring this shift means your body and mind are out of sync when your head hits the pillow. Respecting it means giving your system the softness it's quietly asking for. It doesn't require a complete lifestyle overhaul. It starts with noticing the transition. Maybe it's lighting a lamp instead of turning on overhead lights. Maybe it's switching from the evening news to soft instrumental music. Maybe it's a few gentle stretches, or simply sitting in silence for 5 minutes before beginning your bedtime routine. These are small signals, but they speak loudly to your nervous system. They say, "You're safe now. The day is done." When you begin honoring this subtle slowdown that happens at 7 p.m., something beautiful begins to happen. You stop chasing sleep, and instead, you invite it. Have you noticed your body wanting to slow down earlier in the evening? Or have you made changes that helped you ease into rest more naturally? Share your story or reflection in the comments, and if this part of the story gave you a new way to think about your evenings. Comment with number 2. Someone out there may be quietly waiting for a gentle reminder, just like this one. Once you begin recognizing how early your body starts preparing for rest, the next step is creating a rhythm it can count on. After 70, predictability becomes more than just comforting. It becomes a form of medicine. The body, especially in its later years, responds powerfully to regular patterns. When your evenings follow a steady flow, your brain receives a consistent signal. It's time to let go, time to slow down, time to sleep. That's where the power of an evening routine comes in. Not a rigid checklist, but a soft, intentional rhythm you repeat night after night. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the most effective routines are often the simplest. What matters is that they happen in the same order, around the same time, creating a natural cadence your body learns to trust. Take Samuel, a 76-year-old retired carpenter from Oregon. He used to think bedtime was just about getting under the covers when he felt tired. But his nights were restless, his wake-ups unpredictable. After talking with his doctor, he started winding down the same way each evening, turning off screens by 7:30 p.m., washing up, lighting a lavender-scented candle, and sitting quietly with a crossword puzzle for 20 minutes. Within weeks, his sleep became more consistent. Not perfect, but grounded. Samuel didn't change his entire life. He just gave his evenings structure. And in doing so, he gave his body something it could rely on. This kind of rhythm offers your nervous system a sense of safety. The world may feel unpredictable, but your body begins to understand. This is the time we rest. That understanding can be especially important for those who live alone or who've transitioned out of decades of busyness. Without work, caregiving, or a packed calendar, the absence of structure can leave evenings feeling adrift. But rhythm doesn't mean rigidity. It's about designing a sequence that soothes you, not one that boxes you in. Maybe it's listening to soft music while you fold laundry, or writing a few thoughts in a journal. Maybe it's preparing a cup of herbal tea and walking slowly through your home, turning off lights room by room. Whatever it is, let it be something that calms your senses and prepares your spirit. The goal isn't just sleep, it's ease, a gentler descent into the night, a knowing that no matter how the day went, this part of the day belongs to you, and it always unfolds the same loving way. Have you created a peaceful rhythm for your evenings? Or are you still exploring what feels right for you at this stage of life? We'd love to hear what's working, or even what you're still figuring out. And if this idea of rhythm over routine resonates with you, comment with number 3. Your simple practice might offer someone else the structure they didn't know they needed. Just as routine brings the body into rhythm, our emotional state in the evening plays a quiet but powerful role in how deeply we sleep. It's easy to overlook how much our mood at 7 p.m. affects the quality of our rest at 3 a.m. But the truth is, unspoken feelings, worries, regrets, even unprocessed conversations don't vanish when we turn off the lights. They settle quietly into our nervous system, waiting until the world is still to make themselves known. That's why many older adults find themselves waking in the early hours, not from noise or discomfort, but from a sudden stirring of thought or emotion. The mind replays something said or left unsaid. A memory rises, a feeling returns. It may seem like restlessness, but often it's emotional energy that never had space to move earlier in the evening. Linda, a 72-year-old widow living in Asheville, North Carolina, shared that she often found herself waking at 3:30 a.m. with a tight chest. Not in pain, but with an ache she couldn't explain. Through gentle evening journaling, she began giving her emotions a place to land before bed. Just a few honest lines each night helped her release what she had been carrying silently through the day. Her 3 a.m. wake-ups didn't disappear immediately, but they softened, and over time, she began sleeping through the night more peacefully. Emotional clutter may be invisible, but its impact is real. That's why it's essential to tend to your inner world before you try to rest. Creating a quiet space after dinner, even 10 minutes, to reflect, to pray, to talk with someone close, or simply to sit with your thoughts, can make a world of difference. This practice isn't about fixing everything. It's about acknowledging what's present, giving your heart the same respect you give your body. Because when the heart feels seen, the mind can finally let go. And that soft surrender makes sleep easier to find. You don't need dramatic rituals. You only need honesty and a little space to let it unfold. That could mean writing down one thing that's weighing on you, or whispering a few words of release aloud. Whatever form it takes, the act of giving attention to your feelings, rather than suppressing them, can help you find peace before the night grows too long. If you are also in a similar situation, waking in the early hours without knowing why, or if you have a relative who struggles with nighttime anxiety or emotional restlessness, share your thoughts in the comments. And if this part of the story speaks to your own experience or brings someone to mind, comment with number 4. You never know who might be comforted by your reflection. In addition to caring for your emotional state, what you physically consume in the evening can have a profound effect on how your body behaves hours later, especially in the quiet darkness around 3 a.m. We often think of food and drink as separate from sleep. But for those over 70, the body becomes more sensitive to what we eat, when we eat, and how it interacts with our rest cycle. A late dinner, a second glass of wine, a piece of chocolate before bed, all seem harmless at the time. But hours later, they may leave the body unsettled, blood sugar dipping, digestion stirring, or the nervous system more activated than soothed. Take James, a 78-year-old retired teacher living in Flagstaff, Arizona. For years, he enjoyed a small evening snack and a cup of coffee with his crossword puzzle around 7 p.m. He never considered that this long-standing habit could be interfering with his rest. When his doctor suggested cutting caffeine after lunch and avoiding food close to bedtime, James was skeptical. But once he began having an earlier, lighter dinner and switching to herbal tea, something shifted. His sleep deepened. The 3 a.m. wake-ups didn't vanish overnight, but they lost their grip. The body, especially later in life, needs gentleness, not just in movement or mood, but in nourishment. After dinner, digestion begins to slow, and the body is trying to wind down. Heavy or stimulating foods keep it working when it wants to be resting. Likewise, alcohol may feel relaxing in the moment, but it often fragments sleep hours later, especially during the early morning window. This doesn't mean you have to give up all your favorite comforts. It simply means becoming more aware. Choose foods that are easier on your system in the evening. Warm, simple, nourishing. Drink calming teas like chamomile or lemon balm. And limit sugary desserts or anything that sends your body into an energy spike when it should be easing down. And it's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat. Slowing down your pace, sitting in a peaceful space, and avoiding overstimulation like loud news or tense conversations during dinner all contribute to a smoother evening transition. The tone you set while nourishing your body becomes the tone your body carries into the night. If you or someone you care for has been struggling with restless nights and hasn't considered how food, drink, or even evening conversation might be contributing, this may be a valuable insight. And if this reflection resonates with you, or you've made similar changes that helped your sleep, share your story in the comments. Comment with number 5 to help others see just how connected our evening choices truly are to the peace we feel at 3 a.m. Just as the foods we choose in the evening can influence how we sleep, so too can the environment we create around us, especially through the light and sound we invite into our homes. Our bodies are deeply responsive to light, particularly in the hours leading up to sleep. After 70, this sensitivity increases, making us more vulnerable to the effects of bright lighting, screen exposure, and noise that keeps the nervous system stimulated long past bedtime. What feels like a normal evening in front of the television or scrolling on a tablet might actually be sending your brain the message, "Stay alert, don't shut down yet." This was the quiet culprit for Anita, a 75-year-old artist living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She had a calming evening routine and avoided caffeine, but she still found herself staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., unable to settle back into sleep. It wasn't until her granddaughter visited and commented on how bright the house was in the evenings that Anita realized the lights, screens, and constant background noise were disrupting more than her mood. They were disrupting her rest. She began turning off overhead lights after 7 p.m. and switched to warm-toned lamps instead. She set a reminder to turn off the television earlier and began listening to soft instrumental music instead of the nightly news. Within 2 weeks, her sleep deepened. Not every night was perfect, but her body responded to the new signals. She was no longer unknowingly fighting her own biology. Our brains are wired to respond to the setting sun. Dim light tells the pineal gland to begin producing melatonin, the hormone that helps us sleep. But when we flood our homes with artificial light and blue screens, especially after dinner, we delay that natural release. We confuse the body, telling it to stay awake when it's begging to rest. Creating a peaceful, sleep-supportive environment doesn't require silence or total darkness. It simply asks for intention. Turn off harsh lights. Use lamps with soft bulbs. Step away from the screen. Replace stimulation with serenity. Let the atmosphere around you reflect the kind of rest you want to welcome in. And don't underestimate the power of sound. Even background noise, like a loud show, fast-paced dialogue, or commercials, can heighten alertness. Replacing it with quiet music, nature sounds, or even soft silence can help the mind shift into a slower, more restful rhythm. If you've ever wondered why you feel tired but not sleepy, or if someone in your life struggles with sleep despite doing everything right, consider the light and sound in the space. These are quiet influences, but they speak powerfully to the body. If this story reminds you of your own home environment, or someone you know who might benefit from a calmer evening space, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've made even one small change to create a more restful setting at night, comment with number 6. Your experience may gently guide someone else toward a better night's sleep. Alongside adjusting your physical environment, it's just as important to consider how you tend to your inner world during the hours before sleep. Evening is not only a time for the body to wind down, it's also a natural emotional crossroad. After the distractions of the day fade, unresolved thoughts and feelings often come forward. Especially in later life, when the pace slows and quiet becomes more common, evenings can stir deeper reflections, memories, regrets, longing, even grief. And if these emotions remain unspoken or unacknowledged, they often show up again in the middle of the night. That's why 7 p.m. can be more than just the start of a bedtime routine. It can be a sacred opportunity to emotionally reset. Not to ignore what you're feeling, but to make space for it in a kind, compassionate way. Reflection doesn't have to be heavy. In fact, it can be deeply healing. Maria, a 79-year-old former nurse living in Traverse City, Michigan, once shared how her evenings felt increasingly hollow after her husband passed away. Though her days were busy, it was the quiet after dinner that brought a sense of aching she couldn't name. Her sleep suffered, not because she wasn't tired, but because her heart was unsettled. A friend suggested she begin a simple practice. Write one sentence every evening about something she was grateful for, and one about something she missed. Over time, this small ritual became a gentle release. She began to sleep more peacefully. Not because the ache was gone, but because it had been witnessed. Emotional care in the evening isn't about fixing your past. It's about showing up for your present self. Whether that's through journaling, prayer, writing a note to a loved one, or simply sitting quietly and placing a hand over your heart. These acts create closure for the day and comfort for the night. Even those who don't feel emotionally distressed can benefit from this kind of reflection. We carry so much throughout the day: frustrations, conversations, minor worries, and when they go unacknowledged, they linger in the body and resurface in sleep. A few moments of intentional stillness, of naming what's present, can soften the mind and settle the nervous system. You don't need to dwell. You only need to pause, light a candle, sit by the window, speak softly to yourself. These are small, sacred gestures that signal the day is ending and peace is welcome. If you've ever found your mind racing or your heart stirred at bedtime, or if you know someone who lies awake struggling with unspoken emotion, this may be the practice that brings rest closer. And if you've found your own way to reflect, release, or reconnect before sleep, we'd love to hear about it. Share your experience in the comments, and if this part of the story speaks to your evening or someone you love, comment with number 7. Your story might be the bridge someone else needs to find emotional peace before sleep. As we've seen, peaceful sleep after 70 doesn't begin the moment your head hits the pillow. It begins hours earlier, in the choices you make around 7 p.m. In this stage of life, the body and mind ask for something quieter, more deliberate. The rhythms of youth no longer serve us the same way, and that's not a loss. It's an invitation to slow down, to pay attention, and to shape your evenings with intention rather than habit. Because what you do in those early evening hours speaks to your body all night long. It's in those moments, when you dim the lights, sip something warm, step away from the noise, or sit with your thoughts, that you tell your body, it's time to rest, not just sleep. That message, when given gently and consistently, becomes the foundation for a calmer night and a clearer tomorrow. You don't need a perfect routine. You only need a compassionate one. One that honors your body's changing rhythm, your heart's quiet needs, and your soul's desire for peace. A few small choices can bring you closer to the kind of sleep that feels nourishing, not just necessary. So if this story helped you reflect on your own evening rhythm, or inspired you to try one small change, please like this video, share it with someone who might need a more peaceful night, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that honor your life, your rest, and your well-being. You deserve not just more sleep, but more comfort, more ease, and more peace. And it can all begin tonight, one gentle hour at a time.